Hello, everyone. This is Aisha from On Time Training and Consultancy Services. I am a trainer and a mentor at the organization, certified with PMP, ACP, PBA, CPMAI, and delivering training and mentoring programs for the same. Today is session 6 of our mini marathon series. And today we have a mix of topics, scope, schedule, quality, budget, procurement. We are going to touch on each of these with a couple of questions. So without any further delay, let's get started. I'm going to launch the poll real quick. Okay, so most of the people have opted for option number C, the 100% rule. Let us look at the response. Would anyone like to share their reasoning behind what the correct answer is and why they've chosen it? Okay, I'm going to move to the response. So in this case, let's just go back and look at the question. So the question says, while finalizing the scope baseline, the team debates which criteria should be used to assess the quality of the WBS, the work breakdown structure, before work packages are assigned to control account. So how do you determine the quality of the work breakdown structure, right? So they're debating that. Which of the following is not a key characteristic of a high quality work breakdown structure, right? So PMP is going to test you with this not word, and in a hurry you might be able to, you might skip it and move, think that, okay, which is the key characteristic. So pay close attention to this not word whenever you find it in the question. The response is A, deliverable oriented, B, hierarchical, C, the 100% rule, D, customer focused. So what is not a characteristic in this case, which is D, the customer focus. Why? And I know it's a confusing question because being customer focused does not define any structural characteristic of high WBS, high quality WBS, right? We know that a work breakdown structure is a decomposition of the total project scope, and it decomposes the scope into deliverables and work packages, right? It is a hierarchical decomposition of the total scope carried out by the team. It is not customer focused from a structural perspective, and that is what the question is asking in this case, right? Yes, the WBS is always deliverable oriented. We have studied so many times that the work packages, all the other components in a WBS, they are deliverable oriented. They are not task oriented. We have studied this many times in while studying scope management, right? So we know that the WBS would decompose all of the project scope into deliverables. This comes in the create WBS process according to the PMBOK processes, right? Hierarchical, yes, we see that if the WBS starts from the primary project at the top of the hierarchy, and then it goes all the way down to control accounts, the planning packages, the work packages, and there's a hierarchy to it, right? With the work packages being the smallest individual deliverable in the WBS. 100% rule, yes, this is a specific rule that means that the work breakdown structure of any project should contain, and it should include all of the work that has been a part of that has been approved as a part of our project scope, right? So it means that it kind of maps the entire scope boundary, right? Nothing outside the boundary is included, nothing is removed from it, right? From this approved scope. That is what the 100% scope is mapped onto the WBS, right? So from a structural perspective, D is an incorrect step to define, right? That it is customer focused. It is a good, being customer focused is a good characteristic, and it's a good mindset. But from a structural definition of a high quality WBS, the three other characters, the WBS is deliverable oriented, it's hierarchical, and it follows the 100% rule of building the entire scope in that WBS, right? That's it from the structural perspective. Okay, so most of the people did not get that right. So we have question number 2. Okay, only one correct response in this case. Let us look at the question, and if there are any volunteers to share their thought process, you're most welcome to do so. Okay, let's go through it then. A customer representative attends a formal walkthrough of a nearly completed deliverable and questions why a specific capability is not present. So, some review meeting happened, and the client is now asking that why something is not present. They were expecting a feature probably to be present, but it's not there. The delivery team is uncertain whether the capability was part of the approved work, removed during clarification, or never formally included. So the team doesn't have a lot of information of what was missed and when it was missed, right? What should the project manager do in this case? So we identified that there's some kind of requirement that's missing, and the team does not have a lot of information of why it is missing, right? So what should the project manager do in this case? Refer to the requirements traceability matrix and analyze the requirement. B, analyze the benefits management plan and implement the needed change. C, consult the scope management plan with the customer to understand the gap, right? And we are talking about the broader scope management plan. Right? Discuss and agree with the customer to implement the missing requirement, right? So when we say that what should the project manager do, it automatically implicates that what should the project manager do first, right? So that what is the first step that they need to take in this case when the situation has happened. Okay. See, all of the customers' requirements, all of the product requirements are captured in the requirements traceability matrix, and all the activities that we perform in any given project as a part of our scope are actually tied back to the product requirement in the requirements traceability matrix. It's an artifact specifically designed to tie back all of the project activities to the product or whatever solution you're going to build, right? So in this case, we saw that some increment was completed. The customer says that something is not present, some requirement that they requested is not present, and the delivery team does not have a lot of information, right? So where actually are they going to look for that information? In this case, the correct artifact to go would not be the broader scope management plan, but the requirements traceability matrix, because that is going to give you the pinpointed connection between the requirement and how it ties back to all of the work that the team is supposed to do, right? We know that the team does not have a clear idea, and we know that this specific artifact links the product requirements from their origin to the deliverables that the team is supposed to deliver, right? The team is going to work on to satisfy that product requirement. So these two are tied up, right? and the requirements traceability matrix captures that, right? And it ensures that this traceability matrix, using this traceability matrix, you as a project manager would ensure that all of the approved requirements are delivered by the end of the project. And it also provides a structure for, this artifact also provides a structure for managing any scope changes, right? Any product scope changes, right? So this is the artifact that we are going to use whenever you have any questions about requirement and work misalignments, right? Distractors analyze the benefits management plan and implement the needed change. See, the benefits management plan will explain how are we going to create the project benefits, how are we going to amplify, make sure that those benefits that we want to achieve are maximized, and how we are going to continue delivering, continue gauging the benefit out of the project, right? It will not give you an answer why a specific requirement was approved, when it was approved, and trace it back to a deliverable, right? So it's not going to have that information, right? It will just tell you that how the project benefits are created, delivered, and all of that. So that's not the correct artifact in this case. Consult the scope management plan with the customer to understand the gap. Yes, this could have, like, this could be a very confusing response, because if a requirement is missing, and requirement is eventually a part of the scope, right? But a broader plan will not give you that pinpointed information of why a requirement is missing, right? The scope management plan will explain you how the scope will be defined, how we will validate the scope, and how we will manage and control the scope, right? The question is not asking that how scope should be managed from a general perspective, right? What are the practices what you want to follow, right? And the question is about some specific uncertainty, and that specific data point will be found in the requirements traceability matrix. Discuss and agree with the customer to implement the requirement. Now, this is like, this is again from a customer-centric perspective. This might also confuse some learners, that okay, you're supposed to be customer-friendly and customer-centric, but agreeing, right away with the customer to implement whatever they're asking, right, is not the way to go in predictive. You're first going to assess that, okay, what was the part of the, if this particular requirement was the part of a approved scope or not, right? When you are working in a predictive environment, you are going to very strictly monitor the scope boundaries, what is in scope and what is out of scope, right? So the project manager should first verify the requirement before adding the work or before making any commitments to change, right? So in this case, requirements traceability matrix is the correct artifact, is the go-to artifact. Okay, now we have another question. Let me launch the poll. So this is an earned value management questions. Now, before I even go into the question, currently the exam is not very calculation heavy, right? There's not a lot of rigorous mathematics. So not a lot of rigorous mathematics involved, but still you may see about 3 to 4 questions. That's the pattern that we are noticing. And you may have to perform some minor calculations, but they are going to be more inference based, right? That's what we have observed. So let us look at the question and first determine that what are we supposed to figure out in it. Okay? A project has an approved budget of $500,000. So this is the total budget and is planned to finish in 10 months. This is the project duration, the planned project duration. with work planned evenly across the project timeline, right? So the work is planned across 10 months, evenly planned across 10 months. And this is we have $500,000 as the total budget. At the end of month 4, the value of the work completed is $160,000, and the team has spent $145,000, right? So we know that 160,000 is the earned value, right? How do we know that? Because they're just stating that it's 160,000. If we do the math, which we are going to later demonstrate as well, we'll figure out that this is not an even distribution of the total budget across 10 months. There's a variance in that. And the team has spent, till date, the team has spent $145,000, which is the actual cost the project has incurred so far. The sponsor notes that spending is below the expected monthly average and asks whether the project is progressing according to schedule. So what over here, again, there's a distractor over here that, okay, the sponsor is noting that the project is spending below the monthly average. But the real ask, what the information that they're looking for is actually the situation of the schedule, right? The health of the project schedule itself. So what should the project manager conclude? We know that either when it's a question about the schedule, there are three possibilities. Either the project is going to be ahead of schedule, or it's going to be behind schedule, or it's going to be on spot, like, on schedule. So these are the three intuitive possibilities that we may have, right? Let's look at the responses. The project is ahead of schedule because the team has spent less than the value completed. This is like tying two very different metrics, the value to the schedule, the cost to the schedule. Does not make a lot of sense. The project is behind schedule because the SPI is less than 1. We need to do some calculations, so we'll see that if this is a possibility. The project is on schedule because 4 months of 10-month timeline have passed. Simply because 4 months have passed, we can't say that the project is on schedule just because time has passed. There are conditions, project value conditions that need to be met to say that, okay, the project is on the track. And D is the project is progressing as planned because spending is below the expected monthly average. Again, these are tying two very unrelated metrics together. What are we supposed to calculate? We know that we are supposed to calculate and see whether the schedule is on track. Is the project behind or ahead of the schedule, right? So we know, the response B is correct, but let us kind of decompose it. We saw from the question that the total budget was $500,000, and the total project timeline or the schedule was 10 months. That's the duration, right? And we know the work is evenly planned. So we can take out the value per month, right? Planned value per month would be $500,000 divided by 10 because of the total timeline of 10 months. So $50,000 per month is the planned value. We know, okay, this is the planned value our project should have ideally achieved at this point, right? At the end of month 4, the project should have completed 4 months of planned work, right? How much should it have completed? 50,000 into 4. That means worth of $200,000 should have been completed in an ideal situation. However, we know that the question stated that the value of the work completed is US $160,000, right? So this is the earned value. Earned value is something that has actually been earned so far in the project. Planned value is the ideal value that you would like to gauge out of the project, and earned value is the current situation, the current ground reality, right? So if we want to calculate the SPI, we need to two figures, the earned value and the planned value. It's a SPI, we know it's a ratio between the earned value of what the current situation is and planned value of what the ideal situation should have been. So we know that 160,000 divided by 200,000 would be 0.8. That means 0.8 means that the project has earned only 80% of the value of the planned value it was supposed to achieve at this point, right? So which is below, which is less than 1, right? And we know that if SPI is less than 1, then your project would be behind schedule, right? Although it's like, spending less than what we expected, but the project still stays behind the schedule. I hope everybody got that. And the rest of them are distractors, as we discussed early on, right? It was a SPI calculation. It was a specific schedule asked, right? Not just because you spent less doesn't mean that you're also on schedule. Uh, mm, just because some duration has passed from the total timeline doesn't mean that you're on schedule. And just because this monthly spending may be lower than what you actually planned doesn't also mean that you are delivering the work at the required and planned pace. Okay. Yes, this is question number 4. Okay, I have ended the poll and we've got some very mixed results. We've got equal weights for all of the 4 options. Guys, when you have these kind of questions on the exam, right, you will get scratch paper and some, you may, if like you want to do something with your hands, you can get a scratch paper and draw the paths yourself. If the paths are not drawn up front, you're just getting a table form or this, so if you prefer that method in these types of questions, do take scratch paper in the examination, right? Let us look at the question. A project schedule contains the following activities and dependencies, right? They've given a chart of some activities and their durations, right? Activity A starts first. Okay, we know that this is a starting activity. Just try. We know that activity A starts first, and after A is complete, activities B, and D can start in parallel, right? So we know that, okay, the B and D can start independently. Activity C can start only after activity B is completed, right? And activity E can start only after D is completed, right? Right? So this is what it looks like. And this should be the like the finish line, right? So for us to finish it, right, we need to complete these 2 paths, right? The question says that the project can finish only after both C and E are complete, and they've given some activity durations, right? During schedule review, the project manager is asked how much activity E can be delayed without delaying the project finish date. What is the slack? Slack or float, they may use any of those words interchangeably, right? It means how much can this particular activity be delayed, right? Which is not on a critical path. Okay? So by how much time can activity E be delayed? So what we need to do, first we will need to draw out the paths, right? And see which one is critical and which one is non-critical, right? So up till now, we have A is 6 days. Okay. Let's go to the next page for calculations. Just hold this chart in your mind that A, B, C, D, E, these are the durations for that, right? if we see that the first path was ABC, right? We know that ABC, we drew it first, and then the second path was ADE. We are going to calculate the duration for each path first to figure out which is the critical path and which is the non-critical path, right? So we know that path ABC is 6 days plus 8 days plus 7 days, that's 21 days. And the second path is ADE, which has 6 days plus 10 days plus 4 days, right? 20 days. So we, out of these two paths, we know that this path with activity C is the critical path, and activity E is on a non-critical path, right? Because these are less days over here. So we know that the project can only end when C and E, both of them are finished, right? So we know that ABC is of 21 days. That is a critical path, and activity E is on the non-critical path, right? If you subtract 20 from 21 days, this was the total for non-critical path and this was the total for critical path, you know that you have a slack of 1 day, right? So since activity E is on the non-critical path, you can still delay it by 1 day. You still have a slack or float of 1 day before you disturb the critical path, right? This is the maximum amount of time activity E could be delayed before compromising the overall project finish date, right? So that is why answer B is correct in this case. Right? I hope it's clear to everyone now. The rest of the responses are incorrect because the math does not fit over there. With that, let us move to question number 5. Let us look at the question. A project team is executing a predictive project to manufacture specialized components of a regulated production facility, right? We know that it's a manufacturing concern. Several completed components have passed dimensional inspection and test sampling, and the inspection reports show that the most recent batch is within approved tolerance limits, right? So we know that the components batch that has been produced is within approved tolerance limits, right? So there's no defect happening over there. However, the customer's quality representatives, maybe they sent someone for an audit or inspection, they note that the similar components from earlier batches required rework after installation because different teams interpreted the verification checklist differently. So there maybe it's pointing out to the different versions of the verification checklist. The project manager also notices that the inspection results are acceptable, but the review sequence, handoff points, and evidence recording practices vary across work packages. So there's a lack of standardized process over here. So there's this last line basically indicates that the process is not standardized, it's not uniform, right? So there's a variability in review sequence, in handoff points, and evidence recording practices, right? Across across a lot of deliverables, across a lot of work packages. What should the project manager do? Perform quality control to inspect the completed components again before delivery. Okay. Perform manage control to evaluate whether the quality processes are being applied consistently. Submit a change request to revise the approved quality standards. Ask the customer to update the acceptance criteria before the next batch is reviewed. Okay. What will be the correct response in this case? We know that the deliverables are still within the accepted tolerance levels, right? Accepted tolerance limits. The concern over here is the inconsistency in processes, the lack of uniformity in the quality processes across different teams and across different work packages. This is a process issue, right? we know that managed quality is all about quality assurance of processes, right? It's process focused, not product focused, right? And it ascertains whether the project is following the right quality process, the defined and agreed upon quality processes, and whether the processes that have been defined and are being followed are effective or not. This is the entire purpose of managed quality function in project management, right? So we know the components are not defective, they are within the tolerance levels, but we know that there's been an inconsistency in checklist, inconsistency in the review processes, across different teams, inconsistencies in recording the results. So we know that from team's perspective and from process perspectives, there's a lot of disparity. And in this case, managed quality process should be implemented to ensure standardization, right? Perform quality control to inspect completed components again before delivery. See, we already know that the components that we produced, they know where in the question it is being told to us that they are defective, right? The batch has already passed inspection. So it's not an issue of uh, performing quality control on the same deliverables on the same components, right? Submit a change request to revise the approved quality standards. We do not know if the quality standards are correct or incorrect yet, right? We know that the components have passed the tolerance limits. The problem is not, there is no evidence that the standard is that problem. The quality standards is the problem itself, right? The core problem is the inconsistency of how quality processes are being implemented, right? How they are applied to the project. That inconsistency is being represented in the scenario. Ask the customer to update the acceptance criteria before the next batch is reviewed. Uh, we do not see anywhere in the question that the acceptance criteria is not well defined, or it is unclear, or it is incomplete, right? And the customer's concern is based on what they've experienced when the initial batches have been delivered. They reported it, okay, when they were delivered and when we were verifying them, when we were integrating them, that's when we figured out the inconsistencies, right? So this is about the internal quality processes and not the customer's acceptance criteria. So first, maybe you'll have to think about acceptance criteria at the later stage, but first you have to focus on your internal processes. You have to manage quality internally, and then see if it doesn't meet the acceptance criteria or not, right? So that's not the first step that you're going to take. The first step you're going to take is manage quality to fix the processes. Okay, question number 6. A supplier review is held just before the team commits to the next major integration sequence. So they are having some review meeting. The seller presents two acceptable looking configuration paths for critical external component, right? So they are giving you two options. The seller is giving you two options that might work for as a part of the solution. One path has stronger reference history. That means it has been successful historically, but only under lower operating loads. When there wasn't a lot of maybe traffic, or the operation loads were lower, that's when that solution worked. The other path appears better aligned with future capacity needs. We know that, okay, if we move, there are two paths, path A and path B, and we know that the path A has historically proven to be correct, but only with lower operating loads. The current loads that we are expecting are higher than the previous operating loads. The other path, path B maybe, is better aligned with future capacity needs. It can accommodate our loads. but its behavior under the project's peak transaction profile is not yet supported through evidence. So the option B that you're opting for has some uncertainty to it, right? It does not have a proven track record, right? So there's one that is historically proven, but it cannot manage the load. And there's one which is more suitable for higher loads of work, but has not been historically proven. So now you have two alternate paths, and you're supposed to make a selection of which one are you going to take first. Several team members favor selecting quickly to protect the schedule, while the sponsor is concerned about downstream rework if the wrong path is chosen, right? People, like any given project, most of the time people want to rush, right? But the sponsor is more worried about what goes wrong if we do not evaluate in a good way, right? If we do not currently, at present, if we do not evaluate in a very rigorously, then downstream there may be problems. So what should the project manager do first? The project manager should arrange a joint technical review with the team and the seller to compare both options against the project's performance thresholds and integration constraints. Performance thresholds are your baselines, and integration constraints could be, again, quality, risk, scope, schedule, budget. These could be your integration constraints. And so the project manager suggested, okay, we'll hold a joint review. We will weigh in how each path affects the baselines and the constraints. So that's what option A is about. B, recommend the option with stronger reference history and document the scalability concern as a risk to be monitored during integration. One is like moving right away to the solution, picking the solution right away, that, okay, since path A proved to be historically correct for slightly less workloads, let's move with it because it's historically proven. And this is without assessing the implications, right? Just because something has worked in the past doesn't mean that it will work in the future as well. C, ask the sponsor to approve the configuration path because the decision may affect cost, schedule, and downstream work. You can't do that right away because you have not analyzed the situation. You have not done an alternatives analysis in this case. See, this question is offering you two options, and whenever for any work in the project, you have more than one ways to go about it, right? What do you perform? You perform alternatives analysis, multi-criteria decision analysis. These are all of the techniques that we studied, right, when we were preparing for the content. This is something we routinely study. Select the more scalable option and include additional validation activities in the schedule to reduce uncertainty during execution. Again, this is like skipping a step and jumping right into execution. This is not the PMI mindset. If you are given two options about which you have not fully analyzed that what are the pros and cons of implementing each one, why would you jump directly into execution? So this is also incorrect. In this case, working with the seller team, if you're a buyer, arranging a joint session with them to compare all the options on the table, right? And see which one is better from a baseline perspective, from a constraint perspective, and choose that. And for that, we have some tools and techniques. We know that alternatives analysis exists for this multi-criteria decision analysis, in which maybe you will have certain given criteria factors such as risk, cost, uncertainty, the value achieved, and all of those. So different ranking criteria, and you rank each solution based on those parameters, based on those characteristics, and then make a final decision, right? So over here, A is the correct response, and the rest of them are just distractors. We don't jump right into execution. Even if you want to go to the sponsor to have something achieved, you should go with an analysis and not just ask them that, okay, you approve the configuration path you think is the best, right? You don't do that. And you don't just go what has, you don't do what has historically worked for you without investigation as well, right? Something that may have worked in the past may not work now. With that, let's move to question number 7. Okay. This was a multiple choice question, and there were, okay, probably there's just one person who got all the options, who ticked all of the correct options. Let us look at the question and figure out what are all of the true activities in this case, right? A project is in execution, and several work packages have recently moved through internal review, right? So they're being internally evaluated for quality. The organization's quality function schedules an independent review after noticing that the different teams are applying verification steps differently across similar deliverables. So, what the situation is describing at the moment, right, is an independent review. What is this? This is a quality audit, right? The review team plans to compare actual project practices against approved procedures, right? What is happening actually and what was approved as a part of standard quality process, identifying recurring process gaps, capture useful practices from teams with fewer rework cycles, and recommend improvements to reduce future variation. These are all of the things that we actually do in quality audits, right? Select all the activities that the review team will conduct. Now, what are the activities they need to conduct to ensure that audit takes place, right? Reviewing whether the team's quality activities are being performed according to the approved project and organizational procedures. Yes, yes, they have to verify the process, right? So they will go and see if the activities the team is performing aligns with the organizational procedures and practices or not, approved organizational procedures and processes or not. Identifying repeated process gaps that may be causing inconsistent application of quality practices across work packages. Yes, the point of a quality audit is to assess process gaps. And because whenever there are going to be gaps in the process, it's going to downstream, they're going to start show up as inconsistencies, right? Maybe some practices are followed by certain teams at certain points, and by other teams or by other team members, they're not being followed or followed in a different way. So these are all process gaps. And the quality audit team would definitely identify if there are any process gaps. This is a part of usual audit activities. Document effective practices from one project team that could improve quality performance across other teams. Yes, if if one team is following quality practices, the auditors may recommend other teams to follow those practices as well for better quality management, right? Recommending changes to the way quality procedures are implemented to reduce rework and improve productivity. Yes, auditors do make that kind of recommendation so that you're not reworking on the same things, so that your productivity and efficiency increases. So auditors do routinely give those kind of recommendations to improve your efficiency and to improve your productivity. E. Examining completed deliverables to determine whether each output conforms to its specified acceptance criteria. This is not a part of quality audits. Let us see why. Anyone who can contribute as to why E is not a part of an audit? See, we saw that, okay, A, B, C, D are correct responses. We do all of that, right? See, when you examine completed deliverable, the activity that you're performing is inspection of deliverables. And this is a specific activity which belongs to control quality and not a quality audit, not manage quality. Quality audits are done while you're managing the quality, right? So a quality audit will evaluate whether whether the current project is following the recommended procedures, the recommended guidelines, policies, and all of that, right? So, and it will make sure that the purpose of this audit is to make sure that your project is compliant to the standards and it is continuously improving from a process perspective, right? It does not involve the acceptance criteria, right? So acceptance criteria is product oriented, and audits are process oriented. So it falls into managed quality. Majority of the people have got this wrong, and I think there are just one or two people yes, two people who have got this right. Let us look at the question. A project manager notices that a recurring pattern in project outputs is linked less to the process itself and more to how certain team members are applying recently introduced work practices, right? So at a process level, it's not, there's nothing wrong, right? Some work practices, some team work practices have been introduced and which are not applied appropriately to the work. After discussing the pattern with the team, the project manager arranges capability building activities. Some kind of a training has happened that after they discuss that, okay, people are unable to apply the work practices that are being introduced. So some training has happened. How do we know it's training? We know that the project manager arranges capability building activities. This is essentially training intended to improve consistency in future work. So they have introduced trainings and those trainings are also happening. What should the project manager do next? Now, this is a situational question. It shows you a situation where the team is not fully aligned, not aligned, but not fully trained on recent work practices. The project manager has arranged for some training to fill that gap and to improve the consistency of work in the future. What should they do once this is this training and everything is complete? What should be their next step, right? They have done, they have identified, they have tried to address the issue through training. What should they do next? Introduce a training program? No, we saw that capability building activities, they are already arranged for and the team has completed them. Update the resource management plan. Yes, let us, this is a viable option. We can keep it on a side for now. Increase quality control reviews. This is not, we know that the process is it's not whatever pattern is recurring from the work practices, it's not process related. It already says that in the question. So increasing quality control reviews would not help in this case. Add training cost to the budget. No, this should have already been done before the training even began, right? You should have allocated a budget for that, right? And we know that the training has taken place, right? The correct answer in this case is B, update the resource management plan. Because see, the project manager has already arranged for training, which will improve the members' work practices. We know that training is something that is being carried out. But after that training has happened, you have to have some feedback that goes back into the resource management plan, some observations that goes back into the resource management plan, right? Once you know that the training has taken place, the feedback will go in. We have implemented the action which improved our team capability. So we should now, as a next step, update the plan to reflect the results of those training, to reflect the feedback in the plan. So this is the next step, right? You have completed the training. You as a first step, you may have proposed it, budgeted it, executed the training, and now it's time to update the resource management plan with the outcomes or the feedback from the training of how it had improved our work practices, right? So the distractors in this case is introduce a training program. We have already looked into it. The question scenario said that this has already happened. Increase quality control reviews. Quality control we know is a validation process once the defects are produced in the deliverable itself, right? The scenario is not about the deliverable. The scenario is about some work practices that team has not fully understood and has not implemented. Add training cost to the budget. Yes, this should have already been done. This should activity, the training should already have been budgeted, right? So it is not the immediate response. You don't conduct the training and then budget it, right? That's something included in the project budget itself. So in this case, updating the resource management plan with the feedback from the training is the correct response. Okay, question number 9. We do have mixed responses on this question as well, and this is a very important topic. This is important from a budget perspective as well. This is a topic related to project budget, but also you can think of it in terms of risk management as well. Okay, Rafa says it should be A. Okay, let us look at the question. A pharmaceutical company is completing validation for a new packaging client, right? So they're validating some solution, some product. Late in execution, a health authority issues an updated interpretation requiring an additional verification activity that supports the approved outcome before product release. Okay, so it's late in execution stage and a new requirement has come in from some kind of authority. We know that this is a compliance thing, right? And this is an additional requirement that that was not identified or that was not requested early on. So we did not have any idea of knowing, since this is a compliance thing and the regulatory body is involved, we as project managers, we could not have identified that, okay, this additional thing is going to come in, right? So we perhaps did not even plan for it, right? We did not identify it as a risk, right? And it has to be completed, has to be completed before the product can be released. So now the product release is conditional to adding this verification activity. So it has become critical, right? So try to understand the question context over here. It's come in late, it's come through a compliance and regulatory body, and it is the product's release is hinging on the completion of this verification activity, right? What should the project manager do? Use the validation team's contingency reserve because the new verification is now required before the packaging line can be accepted, right? We know that contingency reserves are portions of a project budget that are kept for identified risk, for known unknowns, right? Remember, contingency plans are used for known unknowns. Okay, we have identified that risk, and if it happens, this is the budget that's allocated to it. This is what we are going to use, right? But over here, we see from the scenario, if we look at it closely, that it's a compliance thing, right? It was not identified beforehand, and the product's release hinges on adding this functionality, right? But it's not been accounted for in the contingency reserve because it is not a known unknown. It's an unknown unknown. Request authorization to use management reserves to include the health authorities' new verification requirement. Yes, you were not aware of this verification requirement over here, and it's a critical requirement from a compliance authority. You will request for a management reserves. Remember, project managers do not control the the management reserve. The project managers only has the authority over contingency reserves because they are used for responding to identified risks, known unknowns, right? We use management reserves when there are unknown unknowns. The project manager has not recorded some kind of a requirement as a risk itself, right? And it's beyond the scope of a project manager's authority to use that budget. So in this case, we are going to use the management reserve. So we are going to request for it. Record the verification cost as an unfavorable cost variance and proceed so the product release is not delayed. No, the question simply says that the product release is hinging on the fact that they need that additional verification capability. Reallocate contingency reserve from lower probability packaging line risk because regulatory verification has now become the highest priority. No, you do not do that. You don't take away planned contingency responses from other risks and allocate it to force majeure issues or issues beyond your own authority, right? This is a very poor practice. Should not be done, right? So we move with the management reserve answer B. Okay, so this question is about all sorts of different estimation techniques that we use for predictive estimations. Let us look at the question. A telecom provider is preparing cost estimates for regional fiber optic network expansion across multiple districts, right? So they want to implement some kind of solution over multiple districts, right? Several teams submit different estimates for similar installation segments. So each team has come up with its own unique estimation, right? And what are the techniques they have used? These teams have used, they have used expert judgment, comparing previous project totals, comparing the current project, the current initiative against the previous project totals, and estimating each segment from scratch. So like the bottoms up approach, right? The estimates should reflect differences in route length, printing difficulty, crew productivity, and local access constraints across all districts, right? So these are the things that you actually maybe need to measure, right? The length has to be accurate. The trenching difficulty may be measured in some calculations. Crew productivity, again, how much of the work is being done on deliverable basis or some day by day basis or what. So that is something that still needs to be measured. And local access constraints across all districts. These are like, this is, I think, more of a distractor over here. But the other points require calculation, being specific about the rates, right? One team lead asked which estimating technique should be used. Propose bottom-up estimating because each activity should be estimated in detail by the responsible team. Explain how beta distribution works and use 3-point estimation for each installation segment. Conduct a training session for all team members on parametric estimating and using it for estimates. Propose an analogous estimating because similar telecom rollout projects have been completed before. So these are all estimation techniques, but we have to choose the right one looking at the scenario, right? And in this case, sorry, and in this case, we know that some estimates should reflect the differences, right, from between different regions The exact measurements should be taken on route length, on trenching difficulty, on productivity. You must have some productivity metrics, right? So this is something that needs to be accurately mapped out and calculated for each region, right? Because we have measurable parameters such as route length, trenching conditions, crew productivity. Um, we can convert it into an estimation model, right? Like cost per kilometer, whatever. If you're laying down the telecom cables, you can convert it into cost per kilometer, or labor hours per resource, right? And you have to adjust it. Whenever you are calculating something per unit, whether it be human productivity, whether it be cost, right? Then the method that's preferred is the parametric method of estimation. So in this case, the project manager should coach the team on what parametric estimation is and encourage the team to use it, right? Because this is going to give you the closest and most accurate estimations in this case, right? Why would a bottom-up approach not work over here? It will give you all the details, but it will, there are supposed to be inconsistencies due to the various regions in which the solution needs to be implemented, right? So if each member who's estimating, they use a different logic, there will be a lot of variance, there will be inconsistency, right? So we need something that is consistent and that could be implemented and used across all the different regions in which the telecom company is implementing the solution. Explain how beta distribution works and use 3-point estimating for each installment segment. See, beta distribution belongs to the 3-point estimating system, most likely, less likely, and all of that. And it is used, uh, in a very you cannot calculate close estimates to it, right? It just gives you a ballpark idea. It just gives you a probability of, okay, maybe we can complete it in this time, and maybe we can, this is the best time period, this is the worst case scenario, so we are just going to take a midway route, right? In this case, you cannot leave the solution, you cannot leave the estimates to probability, right? Because there are units involved, there are measurable parameters, right? So you have to choose a method that closely measures all of those things, all of those parameters. Propose analogous estimating because similar telecom rollout projects have been completed before. See, again, similar projects, past projects, this is a very high level estimation, a broader estimation. And analogous estimations are done usually towards the initiating phase of the project when you're just, just trying to get a ballpark idea, right? Parametric we have studied is something that gives you the exact values, more accurate values, right? So in this case, parametric estimations would make the most sense. I hope everybody got that. We are on the last question now. Most of the people got this answer correct, which is response number B. Anyone who wants to share why B is the correct response? A project sponsor authorized the team to begin discussions with external providers for a new secure records management capability. So they are taking third-party help on building some capability. After several supplier interactions, the team found that the responses could not be compared effectively because each supplier had interpreted the expected delivery arrangement differently. So there's a misalignment of and there's a lack of clarity as far as the expectations go and the solutions go. The sponsor asked why the selection process has become unclear. So what has gone wrong, right? What should have the project manager done before supporting the sponsor's decision, right? What should they have done to, before supporting the sponsor's decision? Because everyone is coming up with a different delivery arrangement. Updated the lessons learned database. Won't make a lot of sense. Reviewed the procurement strategy, maybe yes. Analyzed vendors' website, that would not help um, in delivery arrangements being different. That doesn't solve that kind of difference problems. Appropriated financial regulations. No, this is not about financial regulations either. See, the problem has happened before supplier comparison, right? The suppliers interpreted the expected delivery arrangement very differently. Each one had a different idea, right? It means that the project team did not clearly define that what external work is required, what is the exact work that we are going to procure from the external vendors, right? How would the work be acquired, structured, and contracted before engaging suppliers? So there's a mismanagement of expectations over here, right? The procurement strategy will determine the project delivery method, the type of agreements that you're going to draw with the contractors, and how the procurement will move through different phases of the project, right? All of this guidance, the project manager should have reviewed before going into discussions with the supplier, right? So that preliminary groundwork is missing over here, right? And where would you find that preliminary groundwork on the procurement? In the procurement strategy, right? That how are we going to do it? What are the type of contracts that we are going to follow? What will the delivery itself look like? What are our expectations post-delivery maintenance and all of those things? So this is something that should have been recorded in the procurement strategy, and the project manager should have referred to it upfront. Lessons learned? No. Lessons learned would only provide historical information from previous procurements, right? It does not define the current project's approach, right? It's not that the team ignored the lessons learned, that there's this misalignment. It's because the delivery approach was not clear, maybe, and the delivery arrangement was not clear. Analyze vendors website, this would not help, right? It will not help the buyer outline how they are going to perform the procurement, right? um, Appropriated financial regulations. No, this question is not about financial regulations. This is about deciding and being very clear on what the project approach, the project delivery method, contract type is going to be, right? They belong to procurement strategy and not to financial regulations. Okay, majority of the people got this question right, but there were some selections for B and D as well. So let us look into the question. A contracted seller submits a configuration package for an integrated project component. Okay, so they've submitted a proposal. The package passes basic functional checks, but downstream users later identify that several supporting outputs they expected are missing. So again, there's an misalignment in expectations of what users expected and what the seller has delivered. The seller states that the package satisfied the authorized contract language. So now they are claiming, sellers are claiming that whatever was written in the contract, we have fulfilled it. And that the additional outputs were never part of the agreed work of description. And they say that this is what we signed on and this is what it is. The additional work we never agreed upon, right? What should the project manager review first? In this case, the seller party is making a claim, right? And the first step you need to do is to investigate that claim, to validate that claim, right? That, okay, we never agreed to this kind of work. So the project manager should go and see that what statement of work was was given, and what were the sellers supposed to deliver based on that, right? So let us look. The correct option, the correct artifact to validate this claim that, okay, this work was never expected, is the procurement statement of work. Because over here, there's a claim that some outputs are missing from the work delivered by the seller, and the seller is negating that. The procurement statement of work will define the portion of the project scope that will be delivered by that specific seller, by that specific vendor. What are the required products, what are the required services, what are the required results, and what are the related work expectations with those asks, right? So whenever there's going to be a disagreement about what the seller was required to provide, you will go back and look at this artifact, the procurement statement of work, right? Distractors, source selection criteria. See, source selection criteria is used when you are evaluating and selecting the seller's procurement process, right? What are the characteristics, what is our checklist for selecting a seller? That's what source selection criteria is, right? And through source selection criteria, we develop a checklist against which all of the prospective sellers proposals are being evaluated before you award a contract to a specific seller. It's think of it as a checklist for evaluating different proposals, and based on what the scoring of the checklist is, you will select the final vendor or the final seller, and you're going to award the contract, right? So over here, the source selection criteria is not the issue, right? It's just that the seller is claiming that this was not a part of the spec. This was not a requirement. This was not the part of agreed upon scope deliverable, right? So that's the problem over here. It's not a source selection criteria problem. Seller proposal will describe what the seller offered. That proposal alone is not the only document, right? You provide the statement of work along with other procurement documents, the contracts and everything, to determine the seller obligations. You send them to the seller that, okay, this is the work that we need to be done. The proposal may not cover all of the elements of the statement of work. Remember that. That's just a proposal that the seller is offering you. It is not the finalized requirements. It's not the finalized deal with the seller, right? The proposal alone just says that, okay, this is what we can offer to you. But statement of work actually defines that, okay, what does the buyer require from the seller, right? Procurement management plan, no. It will explain how you will plan the procurement activities, how will you manage them, how will you control the procurement activities. But it will not help you out when you want to discover, when you want to uncover whether this what we have asked was already was asked from us from the buyer side or not, right? There's no way a procurement management plan will validate that claim that the seller is making in this case. And the seller is making that claim that, okay, this was, we never agreed on providing this functionality or providing this output, right? So with that, we come to an end of our mini marathon. We will be coming back with we are already like more than halfway through. This is the sixth session, 3 more sessions remaining for the next 3 Saturdays. And I hope this session was also helpful to you guys. Nayir, do you want to say something, or do you have a question? No? Okay. Okay, perfect.
No, thanks, Al.
Okay, you're welcome. So we will be publishing this on YouTube, and if you want the slide deck, to let me know as well. Have a great evening, everyone. Bye bye.